Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar hosted by Dasher Consulting. I see a lot of people already connecting, so I think we can start exactly on time. For this webinar, the topic would be gifting, as you can see on the slides, and we're going to go into everything that would be more of a cultural understanding of gifting. So what are Chinese consumers looking at? What kind of gift do they buy? And I know we have many different industries today with us. I see F&B, I see beauty, fashion, telecommunications. So I see a lot of different industries, and we'll make sure to answer some of your questions. So just for some of you very quickly who may not be aware of who we are, so the webinar is hosted by Dasher Consulting. Both Lutina and I today will be the main hosts. We're both from Dasher Consulting. And so we are a market research and consulting agency based in Shanghai. So we're doing this webinar from Shanghai here. And I know already that many of you will ask if you can get the report afterwards. We're going to usually send it a few days after the webinar. So yes, for everyone who did register through the link to this webinar, you're going to get the report and you're going to get all the insights that are in the report. Before we start and introduce ourselves, I just wanted to also remind you that we have a Q&A section, and we're going to have 15 minutes at the end of the webinar to look at your questions. So it's quite a long time because we really want you to be engaged in the Q&A. So feel free to put all your questions there. And if you want to have just like quick communication, you can also like enjoy the chats function. So I see even more people are joining. That's great. So let's start. And I wanted first to quickly introduce ourselves. So I'll be quick, but Lutina here on my left or my right for some of you. Lutina, who is product manager in Dasher Consulting and has extensive experience in actually different industries here in different of our projects. So she will be presenting a part of the report today with me. And obviously she's local Chinese, so all your cultural questions you'll be answering perfectly. And from my side, I'm Steffi, and I'm research director here in Dasher Consulting, mainly for the B2C segments, but we do cover both, so I'll be able to answer any of your questions. Right, I think that's perfect. So let's start with approximately 45 minutes and looking at Chinese gifting habits. The report we're going to present today will focus on 5 main parts. Number 1 is just to give you a bit of macro numbers and understand the overview for Chinese gifting habits. And then we'll go where Lutina is going to present a bit more like how the Chinese people choose the products they would give depending on which occasions. So you can see special occasions for gifting. We're going to cover all the cultural one, but of course the commercial one as well. That would be very interesting for most of you today. And then we're going to have a quick look at gifting platforms and a few case studies in the end. I'm going to be fast on that part just to give you some inspirations. So let's start, and happy to read your questions later on in the Q&A. So we start with the gifting habits. And just to give you an understanding, I'm sure you're all here today because you know that gifting is the big thing in China. But to be a bit more specific, you can see here the overall role of gifting in modern Chinese society. So on the left part of the slide, you have just an idea of how big the market is. So this is research and numbers from iMedia Research. The definition they have of the gift economy is actually very large. So this includes like all the different segments, including B2B gifts. So we wouldn't exactly, I think, have the same definition here internally at Dasher of gift, because we would also consider like self-gifting and everything. But at least that gives you a sort of like some directions. You can see in 2018 to 2024, from 8 trillion renminbi to 13 trillion renminbi. So it was already a very sizable market, but it keeps increasing because people still celebrate the older and more traditional festivals, but you have a lot and tons of new ones. And on the right, we did have a bit of fun to create this like different from the West, similar to the West sort of scale, where you have when do people give gifts in general. The things that are very China specific is everything that's like social status related. So it's very common in China to offer a gift to show your social status or to give face to the other person that has a higher social status than you. And that wouldn't be like in, I know, for example, in Europe or even in the US, it may look weird sometimes to give someone as like a gift as a sign of respect, or in the contrary to show that you have a higher sign like social status. In China, it's very common, it's very well accepted. So I would say that's the main difference. And then I'm sure there is a concept, and number two, you can see establish and maintain relationships. I'm sure it's a concept that a lot of you are familiar with, which is like guanxi, which means relationship. So it's how like gifting is really part of the Chinese society, and to how I do maintain relationship, even with people I'm not that close to, which I would say in Europe, in the US, basically America or Europe, you would have more this idea of like maintaining relationship with close friends or with like families. But for China, it's like very wide sense, business partners, neighbors, just to make sure, you know, you have a good relationship with them. And then the rest would be like to show gratitude, love, or mark special occasions, which is a bit closer to what we would have in the West. Here it gives you an understanding with these charts on what are the main gift recipients in China. So overall, I just mentioned about relationships that are very important. Like there is really this idea of like harmony, keeping harmony in the relationships through gifting. And that's a very old belief, but it's still like accurate and still followed today. You can see in terms of like, so this survey was made like in end of 2021, and overall like immediate family followed by romantic partners by far are like taking like most of the gifts in China, which makes sense. But then compared to the West, this is where you see some differences, where you have teacher, boss, customer, it's like 27%, 24%, 22%, meaning that the survey was made on general population. So it means that actually most of the teachers, boss, customers that were in the survey said that indeed they very often receive gifts. So you can see how like it's more diversified markets than in the West. And on the right part, you can see of this slide how the market is very, like the gifting market is really around centered around like this social status, because very often when it comes to many gifting occasions, or to red packets, you know, the hongbao, so you know, these small packets where you put money inside, that very often would be from someone that has a stable situation or a stronger situation to someone that has a less like a slightly more unstable relationship. So giving the example of a married couple to an unmarried like person, or in a married couple, employers to employees, grandparents to grandchildren, parents to children. Of course, right now the market is shifting a little bit, but this idea of like the hierarchy and the social roles in China are still well defined, and they're still like ruling a little bit the gifting market. That's very cultural, but I think it's important to start with this. And going forward, talking about boss, customers. So you understand in this presentation, we focus more generally on the culture of giving a gift. However, in this, you have two parts. You have individual gifts, where you're just going to give to your friends, family, you get my point, and the business gifts. When it comes to the business gift, it's slightly a bit different markets, but I'm sure many of you today would be really impacted by the demands towards premiumization, customization, even for business gifts. So when we say business gifts, it could be from an employer to a whole company, or it could be from employees to like the leadership, for example. And this would be key even, for example, in like beauty industry, it could be fashion industry for some accessories, telecommunication. You can see some examples of this slide. It could be as well household items, messaging devices, perfumes, fragrance. We did work a lot in the past 1 year on identifying the right touch points based on your brands, because you're going to see later, Lutina is going to present tons of occasions for gifting in China. So the real question is like, which one is the right one for my brands? And business gifting is that could be the right one for your brand, even though you don't expect it. So very interesting to see how this is really a higher demand for, like, for example, fragrance sets is totally possible as well for business gifting in China. And because I just mentioned about customization, I also wanted to get back to some of the main principles I think that are important for China when you offer a gift to someone, and therefore for you as brands, brand managers, it's important to keep this in mind, which is you're going to see later, I'm going to explain more about the value for money and the price of gifts. But overall, like when you check on social media, the top mentioned words that people use to describe a good gift, it would be unique. So meaning not necessarily like it's not necessarily means that it has to be very niche brand, but it means that it has to be, I have to feel that it's unique, like for me. So for example, you could like engrave my name, picture, this type of thing, but it has to be, I have to feel that it's unique. Creative, that would be mainly for the younger generation. We'll get back to this later, and especially for some like friends or romantic festivals. And then romantic for a big part of the festivals, that would be all the Valentine's Day, but we'll get back to this later. And so going back to the point about the value for money, this is a question that very often I've been asked, I think living in China for a few years now, is do Chinese consumers prefer expensive gifts, or do they care about other points of the expensive side, like beyond expensive? Do they care about other elements of the gift? So overall, there is this idea that maybe of the giving face to someone else. It's still prevailing in Chinese society, let's be clear. So definitely having something that's quite expensive and showing to the other person that's an expensive gift, it's still something we see. So while in the West, we would do everything to hide the price label or hide anything that's showing too much of the price, because we feel it's not like respectful or polite to show the price. In China, it's very possible that on the gift you would buy, especially like business gifts to clients, for example, it's going to be written the price on it, and it's totally acceptable if it's quite high price, obviously. So it's still something prevailing. However, right now on social media, so I would say for millennials and Gen Z, you find a lot of posts that are like using the words, what kind of gifts can I buy that look expensive but are not expensive? Because you will see the occasions are so like various throughout the year, and you have so many people you need to give gifts to. Mark my words, I said need to give gifts to. So like consumers are trying to look for like products that look expensive but are not actually expensive. So you have a like trendy word in Chinese, you have it on the right here, which is a very key, I think, expression you should all keep in mind, is like 先贵不卖贵, which is basically like it looks expensive from the like visual of the product, the aesthetic, but it's actually not expensive. And so that's really leading the market even more, especially the younger generation. So for all the more commercial festivals, I would say, and that's quite important, I think. And finally, for this part, I also wanted to mention something, because we've been talking mainly about physical items and goods. I also want to show you how the market is slightly shifting, or shifting is a bit of too strong of a word, but including services as a gift. So you can see from like the Gen X to the Gen Z. In dark blue, you have the number of consumers who would like to give or to receive experiences or services as a gift. And so from Gen X to Gen Z, you can see that more and more consumers are used or like to offer someone else some experiences. So examples of experiences could be like travels, glamping, so like glamorous camping, live action role playing experiences, escape room experiences, all these type of experiences that have been completely rising, especially after COVID. So that was a bit of a first overview, very cultural, and now we'll get back to a bit more of the trendy products, and Lutina will take over.
Yeah. First, I will talk about what is the traditionally gifted product that is very popular in China. So we can see health-related products is definitely one that you can give to basically everyone, and also for male audience or like the recipients. Typically, we will give cigarettes and also alcohol, but now because the population is getting younger and also people are more conscious about the healthcare. There's definitely like a part of growth on the healthcare product, which is what we're gonna dive in a bit. So on this, we also see two different new trends. The first is technological related small appliance is definitely increasing. It includes beauty and also personal care related. So it could be beauty tools like laser ones or like hair removers, and also could be brush or like a small massage. And this is the main buyer is younger generations because they are more like familiar with these technologies and know like these are like very likely promoting on Tmall and like other channels, but the receptions could be young generations, but also elderly people or like middle age. They will give it to parents, to their boss, or even teachers. And for the second one is healing products. So this is would be more focused on the emotions as well. And this is mainly among young people, gifted to young peoples. And what interesting to take a note is that people are more like focused on the aesthetics part or even like the smellings. They want something that is very pleasant, very healing, can take away the stress. So the things like small potted plants or even like diffusers or like aesthetic like home decor is very popular these years. And now we look at the third one, which is very mainstream, that is vitamins and also health supplements. There's various ways, and in China we typically have like very high-end ones that is traditional Chinese medicine, like a lot of people would know, like a bird nest or even like sea cucumbers. These are very common typical like gift that we will give to elderly people or like even to your boss that is like a middle to high-end class. And then moving on, we will see one exceptions because in general, we give a lot of supplements, but we don't really give out medicines because medicine have like sort of negative connections that implies illness. So, but we can see like these norms could be breaked. So even like your products is not a typically a gift choice, but in certain circumstance or like if we marketing it right, it also could be a good choice for the gift. So take one example is Paxlovid. This is a medicine for like to treat the COVID or like related symptoms. It's really hard to get in the past 12 months because in China, like a lot of people was sick and we are in shocking medicines. So this is a very good gift to show like I really give you something rare to get, very high values, and give it to you to show like I really take care of you and I would like really want to give you something that is very like sort of like necessity during the time. So it could be a good way to marketing your products during a very specific moment. It could be a choice for you. And now we move on to next one, which is a very common, very safe gift choice, which is fruit. So in general, like before, if we go visit your relatives or go visit your friends, we want to be casual. We also bring like fruits, but nowadays fruit is more than that. Like it went criminalization. So a lot of cases, companies they will do giftings to the employees, or like you are going to like your boss's place. You want to have something that is casual, like you don't think like, oh, I was trying to give you something very expensive, but yet again you want to show the great like value for the monies, like you will go give them like very expensive fruits. So like imported ones, like the value would be like almost close to like 1000 kuai, which is around like 100 or 200 US dollars. But yet again, you want something looks casual. That is a very safe choice. But somehow, like even among these very safe choice, there's codes that you have to watch out. For example, like in China, like a lot of people they will say the sound of pear, which is means li, very sounds similar to fen li. So it means separation. So that is one thing that you want to take notice, especially for elderly people or like people in the east part. They will think, oh, this is a bad sign. Like I don't want to receive like a fruit like appear. But yet again, if you give them like pineapples, which means fortune, or if you give them apples, which means peace and safety, they will be very happy. So these small codes are very specific and maybe even like a region related. So it really depends on like the audience that you want to target, and also it really depends on the industry. And we have like more things, like for example, if you are selling a candle and you are giving out the candle, it better be like not in the color of white. It could be the color of red or like other colors, but if you give out a white candle, somehow like people will also think like it's a bad sign of like a death. So it's also small codes we want to watch out. And now we talk about like the 3 principles when you want to do a gifting set. So first thing is we want to make sure the color is right. In general, we have a lot of festivals, and red, also the color gold, is very safe. Yet again, like people will say, oh, I'm just so tired of the red and the gold, especially the younger generations. So nowadays, like a lot of brands, they will do something that is more fun and interesting. They will use color force, like a hot pink or soft pink or like a hot blues, and then make a mix, have a good mix on the packaging. That is also a very good way to show like the positive side, like the lucky side, but yet again, like jump out of the box, don't be boring. But also one thing to mention is whites. In general, especially in the north part, people are okay with if you have a white color, especially a lot of brands, they want to go to minimalist. They will have like whitish colors. That is okay. But like if you want to target some elderly people or like some specific regions, people don't want to receive a package in white, or at least you should cover with like other colors. That is the sort of principles in the coloring. And also we have numbering. So especially if you want to like targeting like the traditional Chinese event, you don't want to use the odd number. So like everything should go in pair. You should have like either 6 or 8. That means 6 means luck, 6 means luck, and 8 means fortune. That is a number that we Chinese people like. So better to have like 6 items or 8 items in a gift set. And then we also want to talk about personalization. That is very popular these years, especially among young people. So we are not only talking about like engraving a name or engraving a message on the product, but people are like these days we have like more like interactive ways. For example, like you can record a message and send it to the producer, like the brands, and brands will like have the QR code like printed on the packaging, and then when the receives gift, they can scan the QR code and listen to the message that you have sent, or even like you can record a video. I believe like a lot of brands will do that. And also they have like a very interactive experience that is created basically by the unboxing experience. So they will have like a lot of draws, for example, and also we can see a lot of great examples like the Christmas calendars. Basically, you just want to create very fun experience when they open the box. And also that is a very good way if like you have like your product don't necessarily to be luxury, but if you give them like very good, like made good quality box and gives them very fun or like high-end unboxing experience, people will instantly think that is something like luxury. And this strategy also matches with like what we mentioned earlier, like 买贵嫌贵不买贵, which means like something that is budget friendly, yet again like looks very high end, and that is a way that your gift could stand out among like other gifts like a teacher or like a boss received. And we can see a good example here is a perfect diary, which they choose the color right because it's for like for a Valentines. So we want something with a nice ball on it. We want something that is velvet red to show like to have the Valentine like vibe here. Yet again, they have like the QR code on, like the girls, probably the girls like will receive it and scan it and can hear like what their boyfriend wants to say. And they also have like different draws and like all the decorations, and it makes the girl feels like the time when I receive it, I felt like very special. And then we want to talk about something that it also could be budget friendly, but yet again very sophisticated, but also could be a bit away on the luxury end. But this is not only focused on the sophisticated, but more like we are emphasizing on the niche. So niche, like this word is so popular these years in China. Like whenever you search a gift, like you always see the hashtag like 小众, like niche, high end. People will think like, oh, I don't want to receive something that is very common. For example, like when I was in birthday, like a lot of people give me like candles or like perfumes, but I want something that is special. Like it could be also a perfume, but you have like a different shape of the bottle. Like it made me feel like, oh, that is so me. For example, like MBTI was so like very popular, I think not only in China but also in the like entire Asia. Like Japan and Korean people also very interested in this. If I receive a bottle that's like for INTJ specifically, I feel like, okay, this person knows me and this is so unique. And a lot of times, like if you buy like the same kind of products like a home decor, but for a very niche brand, I would say like, okay, it must be very hard to get, or you have to spend a lot of time to like look online to find it, and I will feel special. That is also like a very good gifting options for you. And same for like for a lot of brands, if you have very similar products in a range, you can possibly to categorize it by like MBTI or different ways, and all of a sudden like people will feel like this product has a like another layer of meanings, and it very like becomes very suitable to be a gift. And now we talk about more specific on the younger generations, possibly that is a boyfriend choice. So basically in China, we have sort of like 3 stages. One is like the pursuing stage, so like the honeymoon stage. At this stage, like boys typically will like go for like very safe but high-end choice. They usually have like really good budget on these things, and what they would like search online is, oh, the lipstick color that a girl must have, or like the best options for a girl, or like a queen must have, and you really like link with these keywords or hashtags. They will find more like a luxury end products, and it's very popular, like YSL lipsticks, or like perfumes, or even like jewelries or bags. These are like very common. So if you market yourself as like a girl or a queen must have, like and more like you have more chance to pop up in these gift searching like behaviors. And then move on will be go to the stability stage. This is where like when we have like a quite stable long-term relationship, and we have like give each other like gifts quite a few times, and we're getting to know each other's. At this stage, people may not look necessarily looking for a very big gift, but still like we have a lot of Valentines throughout the year, which Steffi will like talk about later on. So sometimes we only have like a suitable budget, like, but then we still want to have something special. So this stage is more about like how like your gift can create like the romantic emotions for them. It could be like something based on the shared memories. So for example, like I went to like a beach with my boyfriend, and my boyfriend gave me like a beach like walk on the beach. So like it resonates that memory, and that could be a good choice. And also a lot of times if you give something that with a very good story behind it, like it would be something very special as well, but yet again could be like budget friendly. And then we move on to understanding stage. This is would be more like a couple stuff, like really pass on the romantic side, but we know like exactly what she needs. So on this stage, it would be more marketing on like household, like we can give you like a vacuum, or like a hair blow, like like the hair dryer.
Right,
so it could be some like it could be a gift options for like these very stable couples. And then we talk about a very special occasion, which is Teacher's Day. Because in China, like parents or the students giving out gift to teacher is kind of like social adequate. Like basically, like all we have went through this, like when we were like in school. So before it could be very like a DIY. People are like focusing on like have a card, or like leave a message or send out flowers. But nowadays, like it went, like the budget went up so much, and the parents are very like anxious to see like what is the best options to give out to the teachers. So nowadays we have like a way higher budget than before, and all like brands are marketing on this occasion as well. So for example, like for teachers, you can send out like sanitaries, but then like we also like give out teachers a lot of things like hand cream, because teachers like they use chalk a lot. That is a typical thing we would say in China, like you should have like very good hands for that for this. And we also will give out like skincares as well, because especially in the primary school and middle school, most teachers are like females. So like a lot of times like the makeup brands will also marketing on this occasion. And then we talk about Chinese festivals. First, I will talk about 3 very large Chinese traditional holidays or festivals, but there could be slightly different when we talk about giftings. So the most important is Spring Festival, which is Chinese New Year. Basically, during that 15 days, from like day 1 to 15th, that is considered the Chinese festival. All the people that you met, you must sort of give a gift, even like a very small gift, but it's like we are greeting each other during the new year. So like the gift choice could very much go to like very expensive ones, to very important people, to very low like casual gift, to just a random friend that you will like meet up during this festival. But like all the people were giving out gift to each other. So this is very important ones. And then we talk about mid-autumns, which is 中秋节. 中秋节 is the typical business etiquette that you will give out mooncake, or like giving out more like a gift with the mooncake to your business partners. And also like the company would purchase a lot of gift to as a like welfare to give to the employees. So mooncake is a must have, but nowadays we see a lot of like mooncake box. It is actually not about the mooncake. They will have like the tea pot or like other small devices within the mooncake the gift set. And that is a lot of companies have like a really good budget on it. They will like go for these more like upgrades the mooncake box. So that is also definitely a point that you can target on. And then we talk about the dragon boat, which is the 端午节. 端午节 is slightly less popular compared with the previous 2, but yet again, it's still a very important holiday to celebrate in China. And we do see many brands will take it as like a touch point to keep interactive with the audience or with your like loyal customers. They will send out either like a real box of the 粽子, which is the food, or they will like have like send out like electronic like messages online to just you reactive like your customers during this special holiday. And then let's talk about Chinese New Year, since it's so important. So in China, like Chinese New Year, definitely the color is all about red, but red and gold. Many times we see consumers to say, oh, this international brand, they don't really understand Chinese culture, or like they are not really pay a lot of like cares on this. They just throw like a Chinese red and that's it. They find it boring, and in Chinese New Year you see everything in red, so it's really hard for like your products to stand out. So there is we have like 3 good examples how to play with Chinese New Year and Guochao, but yet again could be very eye-catching for the audience. The first way is how you interacted with the culture. For example, like you're not only doing the color red, but you also put the great luck or the great story of like the animal of the year. You play with it, you create a story, or you have a really like a well designed box that it shows like, oh, I understand Chinese culture and I really want to invest or like interact with it. And also like there's a way is you not only pack your products, but things like Chinese New Year is all about reunion with your family, like meeting up with your relatives and friends. Many times you will have like teapots to say like you're not only drinking my products, but I also create like the settings for you. That is also a very good way to do it. And we see Multi is doing that almost every year, like at the year end. And for fashion brands, like even though like you don't necessarily want to use the color red, because obviously for clothes, like you don't want to throw like red on like your clothes, but yet again you can use the shape. For example, Louis is doing what they are doing is they usually like will come up with animals, but on that year the year of the rabbit, they will like come out a product that is in the shape of the rabbit, and consumers was like, oh, this year like I have to have something in rabbit, and this is a very good way for me to purchase a bag, and all of a sudden like this bag stand out from like other new products. And also we can see Kenzo is doing like a tiger shape last year, since like they already have a very strong identities on the tigers, and they're like emerging that with like the very special occasion of the Hunyan. So that is also a good way to do it. And now we talk about more like digital ways or like a small things that you can get in touch with your consumers. One definitely we see basically all the brands, all the luxury brands are doing is that they create their own hongbao. I think most brands, luxury brands, they will give out the hongbao for free to their like consumers, but they have to go to the store to purchase, and then they will like give you the hongbao. But from like last year, we see like many brands, they went digital. They have digital hongbao, for example, on the app, which is called WeChat. We have like a WeChat mini programs. Basically, they ask the people to follow on their mini program on WeChat, and then they will give you a digital package of the hongbao. I remember last year I was fighting so hard to get the Disney one, because like Disney has like limited 5,000 digital hongbao. You have to like I have to set an alarm at 6 p.m. and then like go to their like mini program to get it. And then I also remember like my friends sent me a MS red pockets online. So whenever like we are send greetings online or talking to each other, she just throw me a $2 hongbao, but just to show off like the brand and it like the red pocket itself. So I remember like it was so popular, and I think like all the brands can have like very easy access and to do it.
Okay, that's great. So we just talked about the traditional ones. Now let's go to the less traditional ones, including the Valentine's Day and everything. So in a few words, like it's not like completely comprehensive. You can think about others that are not necessarily in our table here, but we thought about the main ones. So in the familial, like family framework, you have Mother's Day, which is the same as like in the West. There is also Father's Day, but way less celebrated overall. Children's Day, which happens on June 1st, where it's usually the family or sometimes school or like surroundings giving gifts to children to like celebrate their wellness and happiness. Romantic, Valentine's Day is on the slide right after, don't worry. But beyond Valentine's Day, we have wedding and marriage gifts. This looks like very anecdotal maybe for you as a brand, but when we say wedding gifts, in the West, we mean the couple is getting married, so I'm giving them a gift. In China, we also mean in each wedding you go, the newlyweds will give gifts to the guests. So each guest to the wedding will get a set, where in the set you have many different gifts. So some examples of like typical gifts you can get at a wedding as a guest would be a set where you have a few snacks and some beauty products. For example, L'Occitane is very often given out on weddings, and that's actually for them represent probably like at least a lot of visibility on social media, or at least a pretty fair like market share. You have other like beauty brands or massaging brands that are as well like relying a bit on like the wedding and marriage gifts when it comes to their gifting sales. And then you have wedding anniversary. This is quite common. When it comes to the professional world, we did talk already about business gifts, but you also have teachers' days, Lutina mentioned, graduation. It's very common in China, even more than in the US or in Canada, for example, that when you get graduated, you would expect to have really big or quite good and expensive great gifts for your graduation ceremony or a bit after from parents, from friends. So that's very common, actually, very luxury gifts. And then birthdays and 100-day celebration, which is to celebrate the 100th day of a newborn. So I wanted to dive specifically on all of this on the Valentine's Day, which goes and falls under the romantic or the love seasons, we could call it that way. So Valentine's Day in China represent usually for, I know we have some fashion brands and beauty brands today with us in the call, represent usually one of the highest gifting occasion. And the reason behind that is also because you have tons of Valentine's Day in China. So when I say tons of Valentine's Day, first of all, we do have 14th of February. So February 14th, which is the International Valentine's Day. We also have it in China. But beyond the 14th of February, you also have the Qixi Festival, which is the traditional Valentine's Day in China. So it was there before the 14th of February. It's in August. These two are kind of the same, which is a typical normal Valentine's Day where the boyfriend has to offer a gift to the girlfriend or the husband to the wife. So it's male towards female. And that's on top of that, you add one of the highest one as well in terms of sales impact. It's Wu Erling 520, which happens on the 20th of May. And this festival emerged because Wu Erling in Chinese is very close to Wo Ai Ni, which means I love you. That's why it comes from. And it's similarly the same pattern, which is as often celebrated, I would say. Even now it's getting to the older generation, so it's not just a young person thing where it's the same, the boyfriend or the husband has to offer something to the wife or the girlfriend. On top of them, you have smaller anecdotal ones that are usually not to be put in your editorial calendar through the year as a brand, like White Valentine's Day, which is like when women give gifts to men, but it's still very small, or Double Third Festival, which is like only celebrated in small parts of China. These two are more anecdotal, and we usually don't recommend to put it in your editorial calendar. And then you have Women's Day that is at the bottom of the slide. That doesn't fall directly in the Valentine's Day, but it's more and more perceived as a love-related festival. While in the West, I think there is more symbol behind Women's Day, like, you know, International Women's Right Day. In China, it remains really like about woman being a woman, and like expecting gifts from your boyfriend or your husband, but also from your company or some of your surroundings. But it's really, really like related to like more being a woman rather than like fighting. Like, I mean, it has less symbol than it has in the West. So it's still very often like gifts, but it's smaller gifts usually. It will be more like flowers, chocolate, this type of gifts rather than like really thinking about a great gift. So Valentine's Day, very, very key in China for all like of your calendars. And then beyond this occasions, I'm not going to talk too much about it, but you have the daily ones as well. And that's also even more reasons for consumers to give gifts in China. Returning from travel, very common with colleagues, friends, family, you have to bring something. I guess it's a bit similar in the West, but it's almost like a standard in China. House visits, housewarming, hospital visits, job promotions, which I feel is a bit more common to the West. All right, so I'd like to just remind all of you that we're almost about to wrap up, where I'm still going to talk for around 8 minutes. So please leave your questions in the Q&A section if you want, because in approximately 10 minutes, I'm going to go there and answer all of them with Lutina. So if you have a question now, it's the right time to put it in the Q&A section. I'll just add a few words on the Chinese gifting platforms, not too long, because if I have to put it in a very straightforward way, if your brand today is willing to tap into the gifting potential, which I strongly recommend to for most of the industries that are with us today, you don't have to overinvest on one specific platform. And most of the things are happening on Taobao, Tianmao, Taobao, Tmall, where already most of the research for gifts, if we don't have social media, but research for a gift and buying the gift is happening on Taobao most of the time. So if your brand is already present there, you don't have to go on another platform to over-invest there. On Taobao, like everything has been really smooth to enable a really good gift purchase experience. So you have some features where you can directly send it to like the receiver without like, for example, the whole invoice, or like in really nice packaging as well. You also have some features like, for example, I'm on Taobao, I'm browsing, and I found really cool lipstick. I can send like a message to, for example, my boyfriend or one of my friends to say, I really want this. Could you buy it for me? And this is like an integrated feature of Taobao, which is like, oh, your friend found this. Maybe you can offer it to him. So that's really funny to see how it works. But beyond the e-commerce platform, most of the consumers would make their research on social media. So you have Douyin, Xiaohongshu, which are the common ones. So Douyin, the Chinese TikTok, and Xiaohongshu called Red or Little Red Book, which is the Instagram of China a little bit, where they would usually tend to make their research there or do purchase in app on Douyin and Xiaohongshu. Then you have a platform that I would say is slightly more used among slightly older generation, which is called Li Shuo, which basically is like what gift says. And that will also help like consumers to browse for specific gift ideas based on age, based on the occasion, based on the type of person that's gonna be the receiver. But most of the time, like people would just buy on e-commerce platforms. So I will conclude now before going to the Q&A section on just a few brands to give you some inspirations on how did brands like leverage the gifting potential. The brands I'm going to mention right now, some of them are like, I would like to focus more on the methodology they use rather than like on the brand itself. So the first one for everyone in the webinar today, that is from the food and beverage industry. That is a quite interesting brand. It's called Be and Cheery, and it's snack brands, especially like for nuts and everything. And they're very relevant to look at because overall, like all the things we mentioned earlier, they have this multi-layer gifting experience. So they have the Guochao packaging where they collaborate with artists, Chinese artists. So it's not just about putting gold, but it's really like they do collaborate with Chinese artists to like, you know, have really like locally relevant packaging. They do have different pricing where you have big gift box with a lower price, obviously. Something very important for all our friends from the F&B industry, for like snack or any food or beverage. For gifting, we tend to love as well small packaging in China. So small packages, like individual packages, because it looks like more like a fulfilled, like a gift, like a sort of basket with more things. If you have smaller packaging, it's like more in the habits of Chinese consumers to give it like that. So Be and Cheery, quite interesting. If you want to further look at it, I invite you to do it. Use Smiles. This one we chose it because it's a little bit of a surprise, I think, for Westerners or foreigners, which is that it has really been a good case study on how they targeted the gifting industry for something that's not the first thing we can think of suitable for gifting, which is toothbrush. But they do a lot of like matching toothbrushes. Like you can see some of their packaging, which is really like packaging for couples or for parents, this type of thing. And so they really tackled actually super well like this issue of like not necessarily offering a toothbrush, and even offering to clients, some of your clients could be like something that they would do in China. So very interesting use Smiles from that point of view. And then we go to the examples that I think you'd be a bit more familiar with, but important to also address beauty. So you have YSL, that is usually like a top choice as well, especially for the Valentine's days. They have many ways to target the different like gifting occasions, but this one was particularly relevant. They teamed up with like I think it was NBA, yeah. And they had some like collaborations. The goal was for them to target the male, so the boyfriends or the husbands, through the NBA collaboration, and to have this heart-shaped box, a bit more in dark tones, really attracting the male to further purchase for the women. So I think quite interesting to see how they like all their ads, for example, were on the Tencent Sports app. Most of their media investment were on like male-related platforms. So quite interesting to see this. And then Nike, I'll be quicker on Nike because like I think most of you have read it, but when it comes to Nike, that would be like more in terms of storytelling. So they do have some matching like shoes for couples and stuff, but when it comes to storytelling, every year for different festivals, they will have very interesting like campaigns, like videos that usually become super trendy on social media. You have a like crazy number of views, really like buzzy like videos where they would like focus on something that's cultural currently. So these are on the zodiac signs or usually with a touch of humor. So they also work on like gifting through their like video campaigns. And I also wanted to finish quickly on Jo Malone. Why this example is because I also wanted to explain how the experience side of a gift is important in China. And so, like, for example, for Valentine's Day, bringing your girlfriend to this pop-up store of Jo Malone that is super cute, bird themed, packaging was relevant as well. So beyond offering her this set, you were also offering her the experience of taking pictures there, something that's really nice and cute, specifically made for like Valentine's Day. So very interesting to see as well how Jo Malone is doing this. But obviously we can have a lot of examples on the market, especially from beauty, fashion, and F&B, but that would be pretty much how we would conclude on the main insights. And I see we do have questions in the Q&A. So I'm gonna look at the Q&A right now. If you haven't had time to send your Q&A questions, like your questions, feel free to do it now. But let's open it and see the questions. So the first question would be, what role does Christmas play in Chinese society? Is it an opportunity for brands to make gift-friendly products? And if yes, how should they adapt their Christmas specials for the Chinese market? So I think like Christmas is something that we didn't like include in that report because it's very like catered to some specific industry, and that's not a cultural festival. So Christmas, the way it is in China is that compared to the West, where Christmas is a family festival, you would offer gifts to your family. In China, like most of the time, Christmas is something where you would just like think about a cute, nice, fun gifts for your friends, because it's something that's more really like among open-minded international consumers with like overseas background, and they just want to follow the Christmas trend. So they're more attracting by the lifestyle of Christmas. So having, you know, like your cup of hot chocolates and like with like trees, snowy type of Christmas. And that's the main reason why they would offer a gift to their friend. But it's not really to celebrate Christmas and the family vibes behind it. The other question, what about sustainability packaging in China market? Well, that's a very interesting question. When it comes to sustainability and packaging, I feel it's still not a topic yet. So most of the time when you look at the top, like the post online where people would say, this is a really good gift option, it's usually you have a lot of over packaging, because as Lutina was mentioning, the unboxing experience is really part of the gift experience. So if you want to give a good gift, especially if it's not a luxury one, then you have to make sure the unboxing experience is wow. So the person, when they will open it, they will be really amazed by it. And therefore it implies usually over packaging. So I think there are a few more companies right now regarding over packaging in China, but usually not within gifting perspectives.
Yeah, there's one case we do see is basically they use like they create like a reused parcel box. So for example, like when you receive that rectangle parcel box, it has some lines that are already printed on it, and if you cut along the line, you can actually like do a DIY line and make it to be like other things.
Yeah,
that is like one case we say like, talk about sustainability.
I think the fact that the packaging you have can be reusable is definitely something that is trendy as well. Yeah. Okay. Let me check again. Do Chinese people usually offer gifts to friends who recently got a promotion or a big event at work? Yeah, I think it's also quite common within your company to offer to your colleagues that got a promotion, especially if they're like superior to you. I think that's very common, but usually that's not necessarily a very expensive gift. It could be just a small attention. What role does jewelry play in gifting? Is it common to propose with rings or give jewelry on birthdays, special occasions? Do you want to answer that?
I think definitely there's a brand that is marketing that. For example, the local brand's called I Do. So basically, like it was a very like marketing on the Valentines. Basically, the men can only buy gift for one woman, and it's registered. So like if you buy from my friend, like my brand, and you register with this woman, like for the lifetime, you can only purchase gift for that woman. And that is people we see like, oh, you buy that, it means like you're very loyal to me and you are like very committed to our relationship. So we do see like a lot of like jewelry brands is specifically marketing on the Valentine like the coupling opportunities. And also for like birthdays, yes, parents usually like if they have a collection of the jewelries, for example, like Pandora, we do see like the parents or like the boyfriend or girlfriend will collect small pieces, and every like Christmas, every like Valentine's Day or like birthdays, they will like give out one piece, and in total like you can connect them to make like a very nice like necklace or bracelet.
One more question: which Valentine's Day would have the most potential in a commercial point of view? That's a very large question overall. When it comes to Valentine's Day, as I mentioned, for most of consumer goods brands, it would be mainly like it's difficult to say. I think you have to follow like at least the three main ones, which are the 14th of February, 520, so 520, and 7夕. These three are like musts. If like your brand, especially for beauty, fashion, like has the right products to target Valentine's Day, this three as the must have according to me. The other one, like even Women's Day, are I think slightly less relevant because it's more of a branding event rather than like gifting event, like gifting items for your brands. But I think it's difficult. Like my answer is definitely there is like if you want to target Valentine's Day, you need to target the three of them. If really like you need to drop one of them, I would still consider to have Valentine like the 14th of February and probably like early. But overall the three goes together, and usually most of the brands will reuse some of the same activation materials with just small tweaks. So okay, yeah, I see as well. Is it more accurate to categorize younger Chinese consumers according to the decade in which they were born? For example, those born in the 80s, 80后, 90后, 00后. Yeah, definitely. So I think that's a really good question. Definitely, like overall, like so for those of you who don't really like get the question, it's that so when we say Gen Z, millennials, Gen X in the West, in China actually it will be a bit more accurate to categorize them per generation. So yes, it's more accurate than Gen Z and millennials to talk about usually in Chinese. When you work in Chinese, when you look at the like Chinese reports, they never say like Gen Z, like we don't have a direct translation for Gen Z millennials. We talk about like the one born in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, and now even 2010s. So in Chinese, it's really like we call them the after 00, the after 80, the after 90, so 80后, 90后, 00后. And yes, you're right, it's definitely more like usually in our reports when we work on market research or consulting, we use this. Yeah.
10后 like post 110.
Yes, so the post 2020s is 10后. So you basically take the two final numbers and you add 后, which means after the word. So definitely when we work on our projects here for the brands, we usually prefer to use at least 90后 90s and 00后 2000s, where usually it's the younger generation we look at. And I think it works totally the same in the gifting industry, so very good question. I think that's pretty much it. Yes, any other questions? You still have some time to send it in the chat or in the Q&A. Otherwise, I think we'll be good to close for today. Yeah, thank you very much, everyone, for joining this presentation, this webinar. We'll send out the full report. And if you have any questions, please feel free to drop an email or message to us, and we'll make sure to answer to you within 2 days. Thank you very much, everyone. Goodbye.